Othering Podcast explores the world of marginalized communities with a focus on the disabled and LGBTQ+. In our discussions, we will provide a platform for our guests to advocate and share their stories. By delving deep into their difficulties and successes, we will explore the changes necessary to improve lives everywhere. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Othering Podcast with Mike and Dory.
PEP Radio, part of the Pennsylvania Equality Project, advocates for the rights of LGBTQ+ people, the disabled, and marginalized communities. We play music from all 7 continents from 1928 through 2025 in English, Spanish, German, African tribal languages, Korean, and Japanese. We also offer news, history lessons, and are proud to include the Othering Podcast in our programming lineup. Tune in on the Live 365 app, Roku, and Alexa every Saturday and Sunday at 4 p.m.
Hello.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay, today we are talking to Whitney. Whitney has a lot of mental and physical conditions, has struggled with them through most of her life. She has been diagnosed with many, I'm going to name a few, some I cannot pronounce, so I'll let her do that. Borderline personality disorder, major depressive disorder, binge eating disorder, PCOS, that's one I can't pronounce, IBS, and hypertonic pelvic floor. She is also a lesbian, has been in a relationship for several years now. She has a dog, 3 cats. Just a little interesting tidbit. Well, she strongly believes that mental health is very important and worth talking about, and I strongly agree with her. Yes. So, welcome, Whitney. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to talk to us. It's been...
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, good. I always like hearing that.
Yep.
So let's start off with your list.
Yeah, so I think the only one that you guys missed would be vulvodynia. So that is, it's just a condition where the labia gets inflamed and can be really painful. It can be persistent. It can be on and off. Some people only experience it with sexual intercourse, while others can experience it just by like having their underwear on. So it's really different for everyone. But like the only really diagnostic criteria would be that you have to have the chronic pain for 3 months. And then they just kind of say, yeah, okay, this is what you have. Thanks for coming in, and check off.
The other one was the painful bladder condition. Has an official name,
yes.
but
so that would be interstitial cystitis. So in certain places of the world, it is just called painful bladder syndrome. So that is a condition, pretty much, it really varies everywhere that you look. So when I was trying to get diagnosed with this and was ending up in the ER all the time and was just like, my life was completely taken from me. I think that I was just like looking in and just trying to find pretty much any information I could. And so it's really diagnosed differently everywhere in the world. And specifically in the UK, they have it pretty much like, I'm pretty sure it's UK, don't quote me on that, but they have it like broken down into like 6 different categories. And when you look at these 6 different categories, it really puts into perspective, like, okay, there's so much that we're missing over here in Canada and the United States. So for Canada and the United States, it's pretty much just any inflammation of the bladder. It can be, you can have tears in your bladder. You can have like ulcers in your bladder. Me personally, I just have the inflammation and the redness and like the rawness of my urethra. But again, like that's a condition here that I think you could have probably 20 different variations. Just because it's so widely diagnosed.
And it's just so painful.
It is so painful. I think when I first started, so when I was around 17, I really started to experience the symptoms. So growing up, I was constantly being diagnosed with UTIs. And of course, I would go to the doctor, they would give me an antibiotic and they would work. But then it was like as I got older and the more antibiotics I was on, then it was like I was going to get antibiotics maybe 3 times in a row. And maybe like during the third antibiotic, it took it away for 2 weeks, but then I'm back at the doctor.
And
And
they didn't
so,
think anything of this throughout.
so, so I guess not. And to me, that seems weird too, because like I was a child constantly being brought to the doctor with the UTI, and like it was always kind of like they were putting it on my family, like don't use sensitive bubble bath, make sure that like she's not sitting in the bath for too long, make sure that her clothes are being changed as often, so on and so forth. And of course my family was doing that, they didn't want me to struggle. But yeah, the doctors just kept prescribing the antibiotics.
I would have thought the. I mean, you saying that immediately comes to mind of, this doesn't sound right. And the
Especially with a
fact,
child.
yes, as especially that.
Yeah.
And I can understand, like, maybe the first couple of times saying, well, are you making sure that they're not sitting in the bath too long? Or, those types of things. And then the third time I'd be like, maybe there's something else going on here.
And like that's the thing, I think that on a surface level, to like, as bad as my situation was having this diagnosis, there's also so many other paths that should have been investigated,
Yes.
and it could have been so dark, and thankfully for my situation that wasn't the case. But I think just I think in healthcare it's kind of insane how many times like things are overlooked, especially if you're presenting with a quote unquote like good family.
Yeah. And it's just, it just angers me at how so much can like fall through the cracks, and at how they
Oh, it's
don't pay
insane.
attention. Again, I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about it again, but when I was going through to get my diagnosis, like, one of the first doctors is like, oh, just walk it off. And it's like, that's the problem.
Yeah, like thanks. I actually didn't think about trying that.
Yeah, I never thought about walking, even though I walked into your office. But yeah, I'll try walking it off.
Yeah, let me get my like I the things that especially women are told by doctors are so hurtful and so scary, and so I think it just is putting up this barrier between women and healthcare. And I think that we're actually coming to a place, I think, where instead of women feeling more safe, I feel like women are now searching, and not just women, people who are queer, people who are non-binary,
Yes.
people who are trans. I think we're all now going to Reddit or the internet or Instagram and trying to find which doctors are safe. And in Canada, I would like to think, thankfully, that it's not as big as an issue here. Like our doctors are under government or under Medicare. But in the States, I think it is a much bigger problem. And I think
Yes.
it is a fear for people to end up to the wrong doctor. And I think especially with people who are chronically and mentally ill, how many times can you be turned away and be told no and be dismissed before you start to think, well, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am
Right.
not worth helping. Maybe it is all in my head. And then we look at people's mental health, especially in the chronically ill community, and you can't tell me that there's not a strong connection between the two.
Right. And
Yeah.
then,
And it's so sad how many times we hear people have to resort to the community online because the medical profession wasn't doing what they needed to be doing. Like every episode, it comes down to this community is what helped me.
And that's the thing too, is I think there used to be such a like a bad narrative towards self-diagnosis,
yeah.
being like, you can't diagnose yourself, you're now looking into this too much and you're convincing yourself this is what you have, like
Right.
you must want to be sick, you must want to have this. And it's like, no, because unless you are going to your doctor and saying, this is what I have, this is how long I've had it, I know this is what it means, this is what I'm thinking, do you agree? You're not getting an answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Your doctor, as much as I wish that doctors were still really advocating and helping and being there for their patients, and while some are, and they are dear and amazing, I think the reality is you have to go to your doctor as if you are your own lawyer, you are your
Yes.
own advocate. Like you pretty much have to tell them, this is what I found and I need you to sign off on it, because they are in a position right now where I think they are so overworked and so tired and so rushed, and probably some of them are just in such a negative spot right now that they don't feel they have the time or capacity to deep dive into each and every one of our conditions.
Especially since the pandemic, because, I mean, they're still trying to come back mentally from that. And it's not to excuse ignoring us or dismissing us, but I understand that they are very overwhelmed and they're hurting, and we need to address that as well and give them grace. But at the same time, listening doesn't hurt either.
No, I think that that's something that I've always been, and I've always felt so strongly, is I was going through a big part of probably the worst with my vulvodynia and my interstitial cystitis and my PCOS. They were all really fighting against me, and I had just come out of high school and I had just had like my first promotion at my job, so I became like a restaurant supervisor, and we were going through the pandemic and I was living with my grandparents, who of course were like, they're elderly, so there was so much stress on my body. And every time I would present with my symptoms or my concerns, I was always being questioned so severely. Are you sure it's not your period? Are you sure it's not cramps? Are you sure you don't have food poisoning? Are you sure you just don't, like, have you tried Advil? Have you tried Tylenol? Have you put on a heating pad? And I'm like, I'm here
Heating pad?
I'm here in the midst of a pandemic at 3 a.m. This hospital is 30 minutes away from my house. Do you think I have not tried a heating pad?
That is ridiculous. I mean, a heating pad?
And that's
Seriously?
the thing. And even so, eventually, like, once we didn't come out of the pandemic, but where I live in New Brunswick in Canada, in 2021, 2022, the pandemic was going through like periods where like you could have a support person in the hospital. Things were like opening and then they would close down a bit more and reopen. It was a lot, but
Yep.
I was having my partner then come be my support person at the hospital, and we would be in the hospital for 12 hours at 4 a.m. And I would have like male doctors especially come in and be like, well, you might have this and you might have this and you might have this, but I can just prescribe you this and then you can go home. And I would try and explain, like, I've already been prescribed this medication, and I can't exactly remember what it's called, but it's really just like an updated version of naproxen. And so they would give me that, and I would try and like advocate and say, like, this doesn't work for me. Like, I've been here before. They've given me this medication through IV, and it's the same as the tablet form. It just works better through an IV for me. And then, of course, would come the, well, do you just want an IV? Do you just want to be in the hospital? And especially when you have mental illness on your chart, you get looked at a little bit more.
Who really wants to be in a hospital and sit there for 12 hours?
Well, and that's the thing too. And I feel like during the pandemic, and especially actually, I find it worse right now, healthcare is burnt out and they're exhausted, and they unfortunately, I think, are losing their patience and losing their compassion. And while I cannot blame them, it is very, very difficult as a patient who is vulnerable and in pain to present to the ER to then be treated with kind of just like an attitude and sassiness and dismissal and the typical, like, well, have you called your family doctor?
No,
And
never.
and yeah, never. And I think that's the thing too, is especially in New Brunswick in Canada right now, we are so reliant that when someone has a family doctor, because so many people don't, they want to then shove everything to the family doctor. A family doctor can only do so much. She can't meet me at her clinic at 4 a.m.
Exactly. There's a reason why they're called family doctors.
Exactly.
And there's a reason why their residency is different than an ER's residency, or, you know, another type of specialist's residencies, because they only focus on general things for the family.
Yeah. And so another great example of that would be so about a year ago, I've been working with my family doctor. I had a psychiatrist when I think I got assigned one when I was 12. So from 12 to 15, I was with a child psychiatrist. And then when I turned 17 to about 22, I would say I was in between several adult psychiatrists. My psychiatrist ended up moving away. And at the time, he had asked me, would you like me to refer you to like another one in our system? And unfortunately, that was a week where I was rocking euphoria. And I was like, no, I'm going to join the military. I'm cured now. Thanks. Um, so I said, no, thank you. And I take full responsibility for that. So then I went back to my family doctor and she decided about a year ago, like, I think we should involve another psychiatrist. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So I waited about 3 weeks and I get a call from like our government mental health clinic type of deal. And they were like, we see that we got a referral from your family doctor, but you have a family doctor and you've been on several medication and you've seen a couple psychiatrists before and our wait list is 4 to 5 years long. So we think that you just should go back to your family doctor. And if she needs to call a psychiatrist on call to ask any questions, she can. And I'm like on the phone and well, I
Holy
really like,
shit.
I think that my doctor did really want me to see someone. Like, I know that I have been on a lot of medications. However, I have been on medication since I was 12 years old. So, like, we do have to understand
Mm-hmm.
that type. And so they said they pretty much just kept pushing that, like, we're going to send it back to the family doctor. And I was just like, okay, sounds good. Thanks. So, my family doctor gets it back, and I had an appointment with her about a week after that. And she says, like, I got the referral back from the mental health clinic. I said stop and sent it back to them again and said, like, no, I want her to see a specialist. And so this again was probably 11, 12 months ago. So about a week ago, I called and was talking to the receptionist, and I pretty much just said, like, I'm just calling to check in on my referral. And she's like, I can't find it. Let me put you through to the clinic lead. So I'm like, perfect. So I get through to the clinic lead voicemail and I leave a voicemail and to be continued. I haven't heard back.
Oh wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So as much as I value the free healthcare in Canada, and I'm so thankful that we have it because I couldn't imagine being in positions where like a trip to the ER could cost me thousands
yes.
of thousands. It can be difficult because our wait times
Yeah.
are so long and just like the amount of ball drops in the system are just so severe.
Even with insurance here, ER trips for us cost $500. Mental health stuff is very rarely covered. Neither
Yeah.
of our therapies are covered. It's hard to get most of mental health things covered. So, yeah, it's tough here.
And oh, that's so like to me that is just insane
I
because
agree.
like personally like me like I haven't been able to access disability benefits as of yet. I've been like back and forth with them for 8 months.
Similar here.
Still, yeah, still in the process of like trying to explain that I don't want to. Like no one wants to live off the government for
No.
less than it's not even enough to cover your bills.
No.
So like to me like when people are always using that like derogatory like oh like they just want to be lazy and live off the government, it's like it's not living off the government, it's
No.
picking what bills I want to pay this month.
Right.
It's not even possible to live off the government. I mean, they don't give you enough to.
No.
They give you enough to maybe like buy a can of soda.
Oh no, it's insane.
And like here, trying to get on disability, you need like something like 4 or 5 lawyers and 8 years
Oh my
type of
goodness.
thing.
It's really
It's
hard.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Well, and
if
I
so,
just couldn't. I personally like you guys had said about like $500 with insurance. I was gonna say, me and my partner, like if we were in that situation, we just couldn't go. We don't
Yeah.
ever have an extra $500.
Yeah.
yeah,
And so where does that leave people in the States? Like I couldn't imagine having, like, when I think back to the episodes that I was having 2 years ago or 3 years ago that had me in the ER, I couldn't imagine being in that position and knowing, like, okay, I just have to ride this out because I can't afford to go.
To be honest, I just don't pay it.
I,
They bill me later and I don't pay it.
I
mean-
honestly, I'm closing my eyes.
You didn't hear that.
No, top secret.
I mean, maybe it affects my credit and all that crap, but what am I
Honestly,
supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lot of times it's the difference between, well, if I pay this, then I have no house, no car, no food or something like that. And so many people here in the States are getting hurt by the fact that we don't have some sort of like universal health care type of thing. And it's so hard to get on our Medicaid and our Medicare. And, you know, you have to jump through hoops. You have, I mean, even if you are 100%, what they call 100%, which is like, you know, no arms, no legs, and maybe half a torso.
Yep.
And you still have to fight to get on.
And it's just so upsetting, and I can't fathom living in the United States right now. Like, me and my partner were there last July, and we were just downtown in Bangor. That's like 3.5 hours from where we live in New Brunswick, and we were walking across like the Pride like sidewalks, and we were holding hands, and no one was looking at us, and everyone was polite to us. And now I'm like, okay, now like people are being torn out of their homes, and it's not okay to be queer. And like, to think that that's like 3.5 hours away from, and we were just there. Like, it's sickening. It truly makes me like hurt inside, because why do you care what people are doing in their personal relationships?
Exactly. I will ask that until the day I die. I mean, I will
just
be
don't
on
get
my
it. Like,
deathbed saying, why does it matter?
like I pay my taxes. I mow my yard. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And, you know, not to get too deep into it, but some of it is because they think that, you know, according to the Bible, that Sodom and Gomorrah was about gay people. And look it up, but it is not. It has nothing to do with gay people. It has to do with the fact that they were hoarding wealth. They were loving wealth, and they were, you know, keeping the poor poor. They weren't helping them. They weren't nice. They were shitty to their neighbors, and all of these, you know, different things that some people are doing right now.
I was gonna say, you know who that sounds like?
Yeah,
The United States government.
exactly. That's why Sodom and Gomorrah went down. Not because there were some gay people that were happy to be gay.
Well, and also like, to just like put it out on such like a plain level, like I grew up in a time where like I can remember like Same Love by Macklemore was coming out, and like I was young at the time, and I was like, oh, I would like cry to that song and be like, oh, I'm such an ally. um and like I was watching like the United States legalize gay marriage, and my best friend, who we're still best friends, we've been best friends since we were 12, he had come out as gay, and I was kind of like not coming out as gay, but just like talking about it, being like, oh, I think I might think girls are cute. And it was such like a, if anyone came out as gay, it almost felt like, in my community anyway, it was like an overwhelming like, we accept you, and we stand with you, and we don't care, like love is love. And now I'm 23 and in a committed partnership, and my best friends, they're engaged, they're going to be getting married, and I'm watching every video that I come across on the internet that has anything to do with being queer. I'm looking at the comments and just saying like, wow, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
We definitely
And
are.
it's so hard for me to wrap my head around, because when I am by myself, I'm a very feminine presenting woman. I'm a cis woman, so of course I don't get stares if I'm alone. I'm very naive to that fact. However, if I'm with my partner who's more masculine presenting, Or if I'm with my best friends who are more evidently queer, we get a lot more stares, and like we've actually gotten pointed at in restaurants and talked about and then dismissed. And it's so much for me to even, like, my privilege has been so strong and present before this, because I really didn't realize how bad it's becoming.
And I don't understand the level of hatred for it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, honestly, you having sex does not affect my sex.
Well, and also like the like I just I guess to me, like, it always seems that people have to have like it always boils down to the kids.
Yes.
The kids.
Oh,
And
they
I'm
can't
like
learn this. They don't need to know about sex. But we
I'm like
shove heteronormative relationships down their throat from birth, and people still came out gay. So,
exact and like it's not that anyone is trying to like brainwash children or be like, you have no gender and you have no, like, everyone's allowed to raise their children how they want, and
right.
everyone's allowed to just like explore. Like I don't think anyone is trying to shove one or the other down any kid's throat. I think we're just trying to say there's many different options, and whatever you choose, I want you to know that it's okay and there is a path for you to follow.
Yes. It's basically what it boils down to is that everybody is different. Everybody has a right to be different. We don't all have to conform to the same shape, same color, same hair length, and all that stuff like they tried to do in the 1800s during the Victorian era.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to go back to that.
No,
There,
and does any, like, North Korea look so boring? Why
yes,
do like
there's a reason why a lot of them die trying to defect from North Korea. If they're so desperate to get the fuck out, do you think then maybe being conformative is not the right way? It's not
well,
conducive to our nature?
another perfect example is like Afghanistan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I every time I watch a documentary or I look into the news, I just feel like for days it's all I can talk about. It's all I want to look into. It's all I want to tell people about, because I'm like, how is this happening? Like, if you even just take away the fact of how brutally women are treated,
Mm-hmm.
you then have an underliance of, okay, well, in every community there's queer, trans, gay, whatever. There's LGBTQ plus people in every single community.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have that to think about. And also with all the wars going on right now, it's like how lucky we are to just be located where we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Canada, anyways, in Canada.
And it's a lot of it is just like I saw something on Instagram, and it actually kind of hit me where your belief system, your religion, and all of those things are really just based on where you lucked up being born. It's not really like a universal thing. Like if you're born in a Muslim majority country, more than likely you're going to be Muslim. If you're born in
Yeah,
a Christian majority country, more likely you're going to be Christian.
I think something that I've noticed, like just lately, just from being on social media and just watching how the world is changing, I think growing up and being in public school and like having, I was always located in like military bases. So like my school was always with military kids.
Hmm.
I think we always really had this like thought that because people from, say, third world countries or less fortunate countries were the religion that they were and believed in what they were, that was what made them quote unquote like bad. They believed in bad things. They were willing to die for bad things. But I think now, even in, say, Canada and the United States, we're using religion to excuse anything we
Hmm.
want to do. Like,
Yep.
I myself am not religious, but my partner is religious. She is Christian. She believes in God, and I think that that's amazing for her. I think that we all need to believe in something. But something that I really admire about her is she has never, and I know will never, use God as an excuse to hate towards something.
Well, you're not supposed to use God's name in vain. And that's literally what it is saying is using God's name to promote hatred and destruction upon somebody else.
It boggles my mind that we're even in a position in the world to even just dumb it down to the bare minimum.
Yes.
People are too comfortable saying what they say to other people.
Way too comfortable. And
I
I
read
will rage, as much as possible. And, if you don't want to be called stupid, if you don't want to be called an asshole or a bigot, racist, all of those other words, don't do it.
exactly. If you are fitting the definition, but you do not want to be called it, then maybe you should reevaluate who you are.
Right. And if you're using any kind of religion to create the other, you need to reassess. Because, if you follow Jesus, if you follow Muhammad, any of those prophets or, whatever you call them, depending upon your religion, if you follow them, none of them said, "Ooh, those people right there, they need to be othered. They need to be oppressed." So, make sure you do that. It's not in the book.
No.
And I think that's the thing too, is like as a person who's not religious, I obviously just see highlights and remember perhaps going to like Sunday school or like a Bible church when I was a kid. But from what I remember, like the Bible is pretty open to kind of interpretation.
Yep.
But it's never in a way that's negative. It's more like we're giving you this positive thing, take what you need from that and apply it to your life how you see fit.
That's pretty much what it is. Based
Yeah,
off of...
religion doesn't seem like this crazy thing. Like, I think it's really just saying this is what we believe in, and that's okay. But then when it gets like to like this crazy level, I'm like, are you a cult?
Yes.
Yep.
And if you follow, like, I follow a couple of different biblical scholars, and all they say that, well, for one, the Bible contradicts itself, but these are different passages written at different times, and it's still not supposed to be used to condemn the oppression of somebody else. And they all say, if you're using it in that manner, there is something wrong with you. Reassess your heart, reassess your brain, because that's bullshit. And, I'm not a religious person, and I kind of stay away from organized religion, mainly because so many organized religions will condemn everybody. If you're going to use as an organized religion to say that I should be enslaved, or that, LGBTQ people need to be murdered because of being different, or, whatever you decide, disabled need to be murdered because they're too different. I don't want to be a part of that shit.
And why would you?
And yeah, I don't understand
That's
why
not very welcoming.
No.
No.
If everybody basically is at any given point possibly pushed to the other, why the hell do you want to follow that? What kind of person do you have to be to want to follow the oppression of females or LGBTQ or black people?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes people get this like wrong narrative about people who aren't religious or people who don't partake in a certain religion or don't believe in a certain thing. But I think that it's more just like I said, like the welcoming environment, because if in a year I made a friend who was, say, a Christian and going to church was really important to them, as long as I felt that I was safe at the church, I would have no problem joining
Right.
them for, say, a Sunday service. Like, just because it's not what I might believe in, it doesn't mean that I can't take something away from it. It doesn't mean that I can't be there supporting it. I don't think it's disgusting. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's like, like scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, do I feel safe in this environment? And unfortunately, I think a lot of times for people who are anything other than white, white or really into that religion, depending, I guess, on where you are, like, you're not safe.
No, you're not. And again, it kind of also boils down to money. Like with disabled and LGBTQ, all of these, companies pulling out of pride, pun intended, and deciding that, they're going to not do what they had done in years past where they, did merchandise or whatever. It's just kind of, why do you want to lose that money? Why do you
And
want to stop DEI and lose that money?
I also think too, it's very suspicious, like how many companies are backing out, but not really talking about it. They're just like silently, like that meme of Homer Simpson going through the grass.
Yes.
Yep.
That kind of gives me the vibe on what they're doing. Um, and it's just kind of at that point, it's like, if you're so quiet about it, do you know what you're doing is wrong?
They do. And what it is that they don't want to be loud about it because they don't want to be boycotted
Mhm.
by LGBTQ or people of color. They want to keep our money but not support us.
And realistically, I think that if you are someone in that community, like that doesn't necessarily mean that you know these things. Like it shouldn't, as unfortunately, like it is our responsibility to look into it, but it shouldn't be. And I feel like it's also hard, like not every, I think it's a luxury that some people can just go wherever and be like, I'm supporting a company and I know that nothing they're doing is really like disvaluing my morals.
Right. It
But
is hard.
yeah, I think as a person of an othering community, you really would have to sit down and look through every company. And that would be, again, like that is a privilege to have that time or the commitment to do that.
Yes. And that's why it's nice when people understand that not everybody has that luxury and can sit down and say, okay, these are the ones that still support us. So let's
Hmm.
support them. And sometimes, even if it's that, cut and dry, there's a lot, especially in the States, where the only places you can go would be Walmart or Target, or
Exactly.
you have to do Amazon. And although they are bad companies, bad companies for people of color, LGBTQ, and disabled, when all three of those are kind of in your wheelhouse, it's kind of hard to then say, well, I'm going to boycott them, but now where the hell am I going to get my clothes? Now where the hell am I going to get my groceries?
Especially like you said, like if you're a person who is in the disabled community, you may need these services that are able to deliver, that are able to be accessed online. And a lot of times, and thankfully it is getting better, but I would think that with a low, like especially where I'm from, we are not like, I think a lot of times people think Canada and think like Toronto, and that is like I live in a trailer park and like I would have to walk like 30 minutes to get to a convenience store. So like not so like to me like I couldn't access like a little local grocery store around here and
Mm-hmm.
order my groceries and have them delivered. Like again, that is a luxury and a privilege to have that be an option. And unfortunately, it usually is these bigger brands who offer that.
Right. And, what we have to do is that we have to give each other grace for the
Hmm.
fact that we can't all boycott these companies. Sometimes it's, like I said, if that's the only place you can shop, please keep yourself alive because resistance is also being happy and alive.
Exactly.
That does help.
It would be cool if we could raise the dead and have a bunch of skeletons, standing there and, be Halloween party all the time. But if you don't know, I love Halloween. But
Me too.
it's not possible, at least not yet. So, we got to do what we can to help each other. And if that means you got to shop at the quote unquote really bad places, please do what you need to do.
And I think, like you said, like it really just comes down to like we just need to give each other grace. I think that when you are in and like a like you said, an othering community or an othering group, I think that you're trying to survive. You're trying to do the best with what you have. I would like to believe, and while it probably isn't true, I would like to believe that a lot of people in these communities do not have malintent. And so I think again, like just trusting that we're all doing the best we can and again, just giving each other the most grace that we can.
Based on all these people that I have met, I feel confident in saying that the majority of these people are incredibly wonderful and
That's
just
another thing. I think coming from like such a small community and growing up in such a like countryside hick vibe,
mm-hmm,
I think that I never knew that this community existed. And even just like since starting a YouTube and an Instagram, and just like even though like I'm very small, like I have found so many people who resonate, and I've even found so many people who experience things that I thought I was alone in, or that I was like afraid to
Yes.
mention, because I was like, is this even like normal to say? And I think it's just so nice to see how polite, like I think it's also really cool that sometimes if you gain a new follower, like you'll click on their page and you see that like the other 60 people that you
Yes.
really enjoy are also following them. And it's just really nice to see that we all really do support each other. And it doesn't matter what condition you have, what illness you have, what symptoms you have. Like if you're self-diagnosed, if you're going through diagnosis, if you were misdiagnosed, like they're really, everyone is very open and loving and supportive. And I
Yes.
think that it is just the most beautiful community to be a part of.
It is. And again, there are, of course, in every group, there's those outliers that, we would love to kick out. But for the most part, everybody I have met has been incredibly welcoming, incredibly sweet, and just thoughtful. And I hate the fact that we have to go through so much pain in order to be able to share our humanity and to be able to recognize our humanity. And, I wish it was that we didn't have to experience so much hatred, too.
I was going to say, I feel like people in this community are so welcoming and so kind and so just understanding. It's because we have been on the front end of being misunderstood, being hated, being talked down to, being given like opportunities that just weren't accessible to us.
Yeah.
So I think that once you've been in those positions enough times, you really just don't want anyone else to feel that shitty.
Yes, it's exactly right. And I hate the fact that so many people can't understand and empathize unless they go through shitty. And it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to have compassion for each other and understand that even if you never experience that level of hatred or othered, as I like to put, that you can understand and be a good human being.
It's not hard to have kindness. I
No.
feel like it's so easy. Like even if you're having the shittiest day, like why do you then want to make someone else's day shit? Like wouldn't that just make your day worse?
Yes, it does. And I mean, it's proven that if you look at these people, I don't know, like scientifically proven, but if you can, put two and two together, that when you see all of these people of a certain group that are just constantly spewing hatred, they never look happy. They never sound happy. Their faces just look ugly. Not because they're physically ugly, but because their soul is so ugly that it exudes gross.
It's miserable.
It's just the personification of misery, basically. And then you look at the people who are just like, you know what, fuck this shit. Let's have fun. Let's be happy. Be you, I'll be me. And
Exactly.
they're just, the glow is such a huge difference. It's not a black cloud around them.
That's the thing. You're right. Like I couldn't imagine going through my daily life being so concerned on what so many other people are doing behind closed doors.
Yes. Yeah. And I get sometimes, you get a little curious and you want to maybe watch a porno or something like that to see how the others do it. And that's fine, do what you need to do. But to be so obsessed with other people's genitalia and what they do with it is ridiculous.
It's sad. I like, honestly, when you kind of put it like that, I'm like, oh man, I kind of feel bad for them. Oh, like you need a hobby.
Yes, you need something. And again, there's porn out there. Watch that if you need to know how.
A click away.
Yes, just something to
Get the itch out.
To not be so obsessed with whether or not we have breasts or penises or vaginas or designers.
Isn't that so weird? Like,
yes.
Why? Like that needs to be like, that question needs to just be like erased. Like we need to stop asking. So like, unless you're sleeping with someone, you don't need to know. And if you're sleeping with someone, I'm going to assume that you're in a position that you will know.
Right. You'll figure it out. I mean, that's kind of partially why we're on the top of the food chain, is that we are able to figure things out. You can use your own imagination, read a book, something. Don't obsess over what I do with my privates with somebody else.
No, exactly.
And it seems to come down to that. A lot of times it's like either money, religion, or genitals.
Always.
And it's like, why?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like we're just in a place right now where there's too much human rights and too much just basic human rights put into politics. And
Yes.
so every time I hear like everyone can have a different political opinion, I'm like, well, maybe a long time ago, but I can't remember a time where that was the case.
And it's not even about different political opinions anymore. It's morality.
Mm-hmm.
If your morals are to cause the death, the hatred, the misery of somebody else, I don't want to be a part of that.
No, I agree. It honestly, like, even just some of the clips I see of things that are happening in the United States right now or in Gaza, I am like, how can you watch that and not feel sick?
Yeah, and not in my name. Definitely not in my name.
No, and and even then it brings me back to like, how are these people raised?
I don't understand.
Like, the fact that this is like probably like generations of just like being raised like this, and like, when does it stop?
Yeah, I don't understand that. How do you look at a group of people and say, you know what? This is what happened to us, so let's do it to you.
Exactly.
You know the pain. That's the biggest thing, is that when you have experienced the lows and the depths of depravity that humans can do to each other, or when you've, experienced the hatred thrown at you, how do you then take that and throw it to somebody else?
Yeah, I just, that's the thing I think that it comes down to, is there's people who experience hurt and want to then take that and make sure that it doesn't happen to others. And there's the people who experience hurt and are so angry at that they then want to take that hurt and try and pass it on. But it doesn't pass on, it just lingers on.
It just manifests into even worse pain and hatred of yourself. Because I think it still boils down to you, like Hitler, and that was the great self-hatred. He wasn't successful. He was a piece of shit. And so he created this horror for so many different people because he hated himself so much. I believe that's the same thing with Mussolini. And what's going on right now is you hate yourself so damn much that you want the rest of us to suffer.
You couldn't like yourself and treat people like that. I just don't believe it.
It's impossible.
I think, honestly, on that topic, I think that this is something that it really makes me, I think, oftentimes with someone who has borderline personality disorder, I think there is this narrative that we are manipulating and hurting people, and we love to do that, and we really want to be a bad person and be mean. And I think that narrative is so harmful, because just how we had this like amazing chat about how harmful it is to be manipulative, to be hating people, to be like putting your hurt and your pain onto them. Like, what does that then make people with borderline personality look like if that's the narrative we're giving them? I think that I myself like have proved, just being one person, that people with borderline personality disorder have compassion.
Yes, they do.
They don't want to hurt people on purpose. And yes, that when they do put themselves in positions where they might have a split, or they might have some rage, and they do hurt someone, they have hurt someone. That's point blank. We're not ever trying to say that someone with the personality disorder has not hurt someone. If they are hurt, they are hurt. However, you do have to like take into consideration that is part of a disorder. And so just like someone who may have a disorder that causes them to have, say, like a physical reaction, while maybe they can do a lot of things externally that might help them not have that physical reaction as much, you still have to give them understanding and grace when it does happen.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it is part of their condition.
Since you brought it up, I want to talk about the mental health stuff.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to this whole time. I
Sorry.
couldn't get in there. So,
Or Patty.
I have bad depression and anxiety, and I've been through some stuff like bullying and stuff like that. And it's, I guess the best way to put it is it sucks. It's really tough. So, my question to you is or I guess when did you kind of realize you had the depression and the problems? And was it triggered by your not feeling well all the time and other things around it? Or was it something that's just been there?
So my mental health has actually been in a state where I would say that it's been like with professionals since I was 8 years old. That's when I started therapy. It was soon after my parents got divorced. My parents were obviously both going through stuff after the divorce.
Mhm.
I was living with my grandparents. And so I had started therapy. But I wouldn't say that I seriously started seeing mental health practitioners and really experiencing the depths of mental health until I was around 11 to 12. Then I had got set up with a psychiatrist. I had a therapist. I was seeing multiple people. And I think that's when it really started to set in for me. Honestly, my teenage years were so like at the time they were brutal to live through.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back now, like even as a 23-year-old, I'm like, you are so lucky you survived them. Like
Yes.
just in the sense of what I was going through, the positions I was putting myself through based on how bad my mental health was, the amount of stress that is put on teenagers just as a regular teenager with no mental health problems. I think that yeah, like I've definitely suffered with mental health my whole life. I would say that it's definitely differed my whole life just in like where I've been with treatment, if I've been on medication.
Right.
But I would say that from the age of about 12, I was diagnosed with depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and binge eating disorder. And of course, then when going to an adult psychologist or psychiatrist, you get like re-diagnosed. And so during that diagnosis, I was confirmed to have, again, major depressive disorder this time, borderline personality disorder. I do have bipolar trait, but again, like I think that a lot of times when you have a lot of mental illnesses and mental health problems, I think that sometimes the list of diagnoses just gets too much. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just try and compact it because I do feel like borderline personality disorder checks my boxes pretty well. And I was also diagnosed with, yeah, so like the generalized anxiety, borderline personality, traits of bipolar, and then the binge eating again. So that was when I was 22, I received those diagnoses after like spending between 17 to 18 and 21 to 22, I guess, like with different psychiatrists and therapists. And so, yeah, so I guess like that's kind of how my journey with diagnosis went. And I, again, wasn't easy to get those. Like those were not just,
No,
Yep.
it
it's
sounds
never
easy when I
easy.
lay it out, but yeah, I think that that's kind of been my journey with mental health and just the diagnosis I've received. Um, and kind of, yeah, I've been in care with mental health practitioners since 8 to 12, really.
I was going through school in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, and I was bullied ridiculously, and my mental health went downhill real fast. And back then, I would say they didn't really care much about bullying as a school system. It wasn't a big deal like it is today. And you were saying that your teenage years were really rough, which was pretty much when our kids were going through
Mm-hmm.
school, and they had a good idea of bullying and a hold on bullying. So that's just really sad that it's still really not any better.
Yeah.
And
No,
I think what
yeah.
a lot of it is that, and this is why I love having these conversations with you all and such, is that not only do we get to learn about new diagnoses and kind of force people to look, well, she said this, let me look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, having these conversations also prove that we're humans. And it also shows that no matter what generation that you have come through, there's still a universal theme of being a teenager sucks major fucking shit. And
Yeah.
it's where we learn how to interact with our world even more than, you know, when we're in middle school or elementary schools, where we get to kind of start figuring out, not necessarily figure it out all, but just start figuring out, well, who are we? What do we want to be? What, mark do we want to leave on this world? And then it's like you get all of these outside things of, oh, you got to be thin. Oh, you've got to be tall. Oh, you've got to be pretty. Oh, you've got to be porcelain skinned. Or no, you got to be tan and you got to have curly hair. And, all of these differing viewpoints. And it's like, it feels like a whole lot of jealousy, kind of like being forced onto you.
Yeah, honestly, like just going through high school in public school. I was in public school. That's like very like normal in Canada. I hear in the States like a lot of times private schools, but for where I went to school, like we had 2 middle schools, 1 high school. It was like pretty like on a military base. So yeah, so I guess like during that time I was just like really going through my own stuff. And again, like you said, the pressure that is put on teenagers. And then you also have like the pressure of the academics and the pressure of trying to find a job and the pressure of trying to fit in. And it's hard because I was also going through severe episodes and my moods were always shifting. And at the time I had this understanding, and it's still a very confusing line for me because there's some people that have borderline personality disorder diagnosed and they're 15 and 16, and then I see other articles or doctors that say we don't recommend diagnosing it till after 18. But during my teenage years I was just a fireball. Like I was all over the place. I had no clue what was going on. I was being told I was depressed, but why was I so angry that like I could barely function? So I think that that's just, it just is hard when I think we rely so heavily on diagnosis and when there's so many different ways to obtain them or to be dismissed of them.
Yes. And I think that waiting until you're an adult or for certain diagnoses, or you can't have that because you're too young or whatever it is that's going through their head, I think that also kind of does a disservice.
For sure.
I mean, I'm 47. I just recently discovered that I am possibly ADHD, but definitely, autism. I have autism. And it's like,
I think that's a thing. Like, I feel like with people who are in their late 30s, early 40s, late 40s, early 50s, like they are now discovering that they've lived their whole life with these things and it didn't have to be that hard, but it was like the narrative that like that's life.
yes.
Yeah.
And
you just had to conform to be normal, even if you were struggling immensely.
And it shouldn't be that way. Again, yes, you can't cater to every single individual person. That's impossible. It would take you forever. But you can still modify things for people. We can still find a way to include more people so that we don't have to suffer in silence for years and then discover that's why I thought like that. That's why I was so angry or so sad or whatever it is, or that's why my leg kept falling off.
Exactly.
And, you don't want to feel those things, especially during a teenage years. And I think that's also why so many ideology comes at that point, is because you have all of these bombarding thoughts and feelings of your own, and then you've got the bombarding thoughts and feelings of a society that says you've got to look and feel and act this way. And then you're just like, well, what am I doing? Who am I? What is all of this? And nobody really knows how to help you. And the ones that you think that would kind of have an idea don't seem to either know themselves or don't seem to care, and just kind of let you flail. And I think that's a disservice to all of our children and our adults, is to say, well, that's life, life isn't fair. Okay.
Yeah. And I think right now too, like I've noticed on social media that we're kind of becoming almost hateful when it comes to diagnosis. Like we're second guessing people. We're mad at them if they're saying that they feel that they have this, but they aren't sure. We're double guessing. We're saying, well, how do you know? And I think instead we just need to be more supportive and understand how many people are struggling to access doctors or therapists or specialists. Like I think that instead of having this like horrible narrative to like almost, again, bully people into feeling like they're wrong for wanting to seek out like a diagnosis or try and assume or, like just learn more. We should encourage them to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, we should encourage them to look into it. We should encourage them to seek the help that they need without necessarily, doing like in the pandemic where, well, I saw on Google. And you should do research. And research means actually delving into more than one article. Actually, you're supposed to look at more than 3 articles to truly get a real feel for what it is you're looking for.
And we're so lucky.
Yeah.
To have like real people now, like just on sites like Instagram and TikTok and like Facebook, just talking about these things that are like, yeah, like I'm having trouble with this. Is anyone else? And then you have a bunch of comments, maybe explaining the things that you're experiencing.
Right. And you take that knowledge of 3 or more articles and all of the people, who have those diseases or ailments or, syndromes, and okay, this fits. And then you go to a doctor too, and they can then help, you kind of figure all of this out, because we also don't want people to go and say, well, Dr. Google did this, so I'm going to die tomorrow. And you're still fine. Or, well, I saw one article that said that vaccines are terrible, and, decide that you're not going to get vaccines. Like the person who, it wasn't vaccines, but it was cancer. She ended up having cancer, but she was so afraid because social media told her that you shouldn't get a mammogram, and then, you shouldn't get a mastectomy. And, there's a fine line between being, your own researcher and deciding that you know everything.
And I think too, I think a lot of people are so scared to look into something and think, okay, that might be it. And then to be told you were so wrong. But even if you learn so much about a condition and you don't end up having it, like, how cool is it now that you have all this knowledge on a condition that you could pass on, that you could help people with, that you could
create a website or something and share that knowledge and say, here's some resources. And, it helps we need people to understand these different issues that we have, and so that we can get the research that we need and be able to find either not necessarily cures all the time, just something so that we can live normal.
Especially,
I'm going to cut you guys off.
We're chatty.
We're way past our time here. And we could go on for another 2 hours, I think.
Yes, yes, we could.
It's been great.
Yes, it has been so awesomely great to talk with you. And
yes, I've enjoyed it so much. It just felt like, again, we were at a lemonade shop.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Have some ice cream and such, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you guys for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Please leave a rating for us wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
Othering Podcast is brought to you by Loudcore Productions in conjunction with your support. Your host, Mike and Dory Morris, graphics by Joshua Morris, and join us next week on the Othering Podcast.